Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing well, doing well.
All right, I did a weird screenshot of us here. Blew it
All
up.
right, there we go.
All right. So I wanted. I mean, we'll get into trailers because there's a ton of stuff this week. I don't even know why there was so much stuff, but it all hit, and not, some of it was isn't even worth mentioning. But I did want to talk about this article that just hit today that CGC put up um, about our favorite Mexican comic, the Sobrenente Hombre Arena 128, the famous wedding issue. Uh, if you're on any of the foreign comic things, you'll know that Josh, International Comics, sold this when he actually purchased on eBay, found a diamond in the rough. Somebody had listed it as a reprint, but he spotted it wasn't. Paid
Ooh.
about, I can't remember if it was $200, something very close to that. Got it, pressed it, graded it, express, had it on eBay, listed at 40K, and sold in right over a day for 35K. So
Okay,
that's
now I was actually on the show where Josh had talked about this, but I didn't realize that the seller had marked this as a reprint. How
yeah,
long ago and how long ago was it that he bought this?
about a month.
Oh my gosh. You
It
see, I
it
thought this was something that he had in his collection for like a number of years.
no
Wow.
no.
Woo!
He had great eyes because the mole standard cover looks pretty close. Just the coloring's a little different. And he's
Yeah.
like, that's got a lot of wear. I mean, it said reprint in the listing, and
Yeah.
I probably saw it and just passed it right by, not thinking about it. I'm like, who would do that? And
Right.
at least a half dozen of us looked at it and said, "Oh shit, we did see that. We just didn't connect." So he got it, scored big. CGC kind of did this article just kind of pushing their international comic rating, but they kind of pointed out something interesting that this is the highest selling Bronze Age comic book price at a CGC 6.5. So I mean, nothing else comes even close to that. So it's interesting. So they were just kind of pointed out that it's a really interesting sale. So
Hmm.
I
Oh,
truthfully
for
thought he
sure.
probably, considering a 2.5 sold at Heritage for 15, he might have priced this. Might have been able to get more. I don't know how quickly, but he might have been able to get more.
Okay, John, how long have you been going after foreign books?
5 to 7 years.
Okay, now is have you you've come across this?
I own two.
Okay, all right.
I've had two opportunities to buy, and I've bought them.
Okay, so is this kind of like one of those things where if you've been collecting for a certain amount of time, this is the type of book that kind of should be in your collection? You know, like say like a whole like a Hulk 181 or even like a New Mutants 98 or something like that. You know what I mean? This should
No.
be a staple in the collection. If you've been collecting for a long time, you've been able to maybe scoop up, a
So,
copy or two.
truthfully, like Matt and some of those guys have been doing this 10 to 15 years is probably about the earliest people that I know that have been doing it. And I know, a good number of them. Uh, Most of them not owned a copy. Um, One guy owns the 8.5 I know listed. Um, I mean, I know of about a dozen copies that exist in the States.
Mm.
I mean, not to say there aren't more, but this particular issue, the non canons were less kind of collected by the Mexican collector because they were like, it's not really a Marvel product. They knew it was different. And the novelty of it wasn't really that interesting at the time. Um, I mean, there's some non canons I've had. You get a little later in the run, I've had quite a few of them opportunities to buy. This one just doesn't pop up. I don't at the prices we're seeing, it wouldn't surprise me if we see more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nowhere near as common as anything Bronze Age we're dealing with here. I don't think it's as rare as, let's say, Golden Age, but there's not a ton of it floating around. I mean, there's a couple Mexican collectors that we knew, like some of the big time guys that would sell and collect and bought some of the pedigree quote collections in their mind. And none of them had like many of these. There's like one or two. I do know one particular guy came into the market hard around early 2020. Did manage to scoop up 3 copies, but they're like a 2.5 and a 3 and something else, so kind of lower end, which a lot of these are. So truthfully, I think the 6.5 might be the 4th or 5th highest copy. So I don't know what will happen in the next 6 months. I don't think you'll see a lot of them above this, though. Just from what I've seen in the foreign market. I mean, the ones that like I have and that Rob has with his Big Booty Gwen, these were out of like one of the 2 kind of big 3 collections. One is a publisher kind of thing, kind of like the Harvey File copies. There was one of each. One was another collection, and then there's kind of this 3rd collection of, I wouldn't call it a pedigree because it was a collector that had kind of just put together the nicest copy he could find over his 20 some years of collecting. So kind of a secondary pedigree thought. So I mean, it's wild that it jumped so fast. When I bought my 2nd copy a few years ago, we all joke, hey, maybe it'll be a 5-figure book sometime. Yeah, so it jumped fast. Yeah, but I do think it just has that interesting, like, so weird.
Yeah, this makes me, as somebody who is definitely not a foreign dude at all, but makes regular trips down to Latin America, makes me want to start actually like really getting serious about trying to find this stuff while I'm down there.
It's probably worth your time to at least ask around of, where are there some books? Is there a market, Yeah.
I mean, everything I come across now is all they want to sell is the American stuff. Like, so like a lot of the shops that I do frequent down there are trying to flip like, original American printings and things like that. Like I almost never come across anything that's actually, from this time period or true Mexican prints. Like you may see a La Mole like every now and again, but like they're typically trying to flip like their American printings.
It's because they deemed it, they deemed the American stuff the real stuff, and this was just kind of, interesting. But if you couldn't read English, you could get this. But if you could, you were going to get the American one. Like for collecting, they wanted the American copies. I did see some dealer somewhere in this related to this sale or article post, this is the kind of stuff 15, 20 years ago I'd get in a collection and just throw away.
Oh my gosh.
So, I don't know if he means this book, but just, any, Mexican or other prints. So some of this stuff, it's scarce. I fathom, I don't want to say how scarce because I don't think we know, because as prices go up, you're always going to find more of something. So it escalated quickly, but I don't think all of a sudden the census is going to jump to 100 copies. It's going to go from 10 to, 20 for a while, and eventually we'll creep up into the 30, 40 number, I bet. So
Chris, you going to be on your Marco Polo?
I mean, I think so. I mean, like, I got a trip potentially planned down to go ahead to Oaxaca. Like, I feel like if I'm going to find this stuff, it won't be in the cities. Like, it won't be in Mexico City. It won't be in the big cities. Like, I'm going to have to go to, like, places that are more in the countryside and start digging through, like, old swap meets and,
it's the
street vendors.
The bookstores and those kind of secondary things. It's not going to be like the comic shop because they're all buying the new stuff. Kind of same thing here. They only get so much vintage stuff in.
Yeah, it definitely helps though to have people who are basically like family down there. So I'm like, if you come across something that looks like this, like snatch it up and store it away from me. I'll come get it from you next time I'm in town.
Right.
So I don't know. I thought it was cool. CGC is definitely trying to push it. We know Heritage was doing some, did a sale. I don't think they did a great job, but maybe they'll learn their lesson after a couple of sales here like this. So on to the kind of the trailers of the week. The big one hit just after our show last week. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer here. There had been a teaser at SDCC.
Yeah. Well, so it was basically what they showed at SDCC was the same trailer with different. So that one had Flaming Lips playing over it instead of what was playing over this one. And there was a couple more clips that were just generally like sad and like everyone's going to die type stuff. So, but for the most part, though, it was the same trailer with like a couple extra clips added in. So, I mean, I'm excited. It looks really good. James Gunn's swan song with Marvel, because I'm pretty sure he'll never come back and make another film there. So.
No, I think I don't know who we'll see again out of this, honestly. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if almost nobody comes out of this damn thing.
I mean, I definitely, I mean, with what Drax has been basically relegated to, and with Thanos no longer like existing, he pretty much has no reason to exist anymore as a character.
Well, Batista said he's not doing it again. He doesn't want to get in shape.
Exactly. So I think that he's gone. This points to the Rocket finale. There's rumors going around of how that will ultimately play out, but yeah, this may be the end of the story for Rocket. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like they put like Guardians has been one of the most consistent products. Like, I mean, other people have had higher highs and lower lows, but the Guardians have managed to maintain a pretty consistent product through everything they've done so far. So I mean, yeah, I hate to see him go, but I wouldn't be sad about it. It's the way these things were always historically kind of did end, is that you told your story and you stopped, making those movies and maybe you rebooted in a couple of years or something like that, but you didn't drag it out for all eternity or keep going back to the well. And so it kind of would be nice to see a story just see its natural completion and end. So,
yeah, I mean, I could see Groot going on because he's animated, but without Rocket, it's kind of pointless.
They seem to be downplaying their bond in this, like with this new iteration of Groot. Like,
that's true.
They just they don't share as much screen time anymore. It seems like.
So I mean, theoretically, that could go on if they chose to. Mantis is a wild card, and maybe Nebula, but I just don't know that she's got much more of interest to offer either.
Yeah, I mean, if they do a revamp and we get a new lineup, like kind of like what happened briefly under when what's face was doing his story arc with the Guardians. I don't know. I can see that happening. I mean, they're introducing characters where they can do a new set cosmic. I mean, they could bring in Nova. We're getting Adam Warlock. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there for them to switch up the lineup a little bit for future iterations.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a rebranding, kind of like Avengers is just going to shift to a completely different group. And yeah, we could see something different, but I don't see a lot pulling forward.
Yeah.
I did the Christmas special amused me because, Drax wore a sweater the whole time. And I'm sitting there thinking, and Batista just didn't want to get in shape, didn't want to do the makeup.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't want to get in shape and didn't want to do the makeup. And so it was just like, yeah, guys, I'm wearing a shirt for the first time in 2 movies. So
I enjoyed Groot was just a dude in a suit, too.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it for what it was. But, yeah, I look forward to this one probably as much as anything just because I think it'll be – I think you're right. The quality be what we expect it to be. So the one I'm less sure of is Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah. I love the fact that like Crystal Skull might as well have never even happened.
I mean, they set the bar real low with that, so I mean, at least it's probably going to be better than that.
Yeah, I mean, they're leaning heavily into the de-aging to the point that my girlfriend, I showed her the trailer, and she's like, "Oh, like they're using old clips from older movies." I was like, "No, they're not, because those things never happened in the original 3 movies." So I was like, "Wait a minute, let's roll it back again." Now, look, that's a de-age. Like I paused it, and I was like, "That's a de-age Harrison Ford right there. That is not; those are not clips from the earlier movies."
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is some of it he is aged.
So I think what's happening is that like they're telling some stories. I'm not sure if they're consistently telling stories from that time period, but I think we're gonna have some either time travel or flashbacks to missions and stories that took place that we never saw in film. Because I mean, you remember, like at least during my childhood, we had the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles that
Yeah.
kept jumping around through time and telling stories of Indy when he was younger. I think we're going to get some in between stories that tie into the story that's being told in the actual film.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some stuff that appeared to be maybe like the 50s, 60s.
Yeah,
There was
I
a
mean,
scene I saw cars that looked too modern, and it was just a little out of place. But I didn't get a good enough mental time frame of it.
yeah, there was definitely a scene where he's like riding on top of either a train or something, and he's like DA's young Indy, so he's got the dark hair, probably supposed to be a 40-year-old Harrison Ford, um, going toe to toe with some Nazi while they're riding on top of the train, and that looks like, just from context clues of the scene, yeah, probably the 40s, or probably, yeah, like the 50s. I'd say probably like early 50s or so, maybe even late 50s. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. I love how they're bringing in what's her name, Phoebe. I'm blanking on her last name, but from Fleabag,
Yeah.
and like it's his goddaughter, and it's just like, wait a minute, you have a son that was, nope. Let's pretend like that never happened.
We don't know about him.
It was like he mutt somewhere doing mutt shit. Like, we don't care anymore.
You know what? I have to imagine that if Solo were a much bigger and more popular movie, they would have got the guy that played young Solo to play Indiana Jones for whatever reason.
Yeah, I feel like we're trying to forget also.
Mhm.
I mean, doing a reboot's tough. Doing a legacy film's tough. I don't know. I think we're all getting a little suspicious of it. Very few of them really make us feel like, all right, feel great about that one.
I mean, it's the problem with the legacy stuff, is that it's really hard to have it not come off as a cash grab. Like,
Yeah.
you got to have these people really care. And Harrison Ford has never done a great job post like any of this shit of being like, I care about this character. More so, it seems like I care about the check that they give me to play this character. Whereas other people have like this kind of, they revere the character. Like, they seem to actually care about the portrayal and what this character means to their career. And I don't know, like, Harrison Ford never did a great job with any of these iconic characters of ever having that type of like reverence for them. And so when he does come back to do them, you're just like, he's only here for the money. So
Yeah. Whereas like Tom Cruise and Maverick was kind of like that movie that really hit well, but you always think he wanted to do the movie he wanted to make on that. It wasn't like he could make any movie and probably do well.
Well, I mean, he turned down other scripts for 30 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's the difference, is that like you didn't get saturation with bullshit, basically. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, Harrison Ford, again, he was very public and talking negative about, the franchise, and be like, I'm not coming back, and blah blah blah. You want to, watch the old stuff if you want to see me play that character. Like, he just didn't care. And it's kind of hard to back that, to walk that back, when all of a sudden it's like, now you're in front of people, they walk you out on the stage, like, no. I really meant I'd only come back if it was done the right way, blah, blah. No, you absolutely shit on that franchise, and you did not want to come back. And then they backed the Brinks truck up, and all of a sudden your tune changed. Like, Tom Cruise, it was always, no, unless it's the right script and it makes sense, I'm not touching that character. And he didn't. He did other shit, and 30, almost 40 years went by, and then they finally were like, hey, here's a script that really makes sense. Let's do it.
Well, and I mean, you've got, with Cruise, you've got Mission Impossible, and you know absolutely what you're going to get every one of those movies.
Yeah.
They are the definition of, what you're getting in that movie. If you're complaining about it, I don't think you've seen the others. It is, flat line on expectations and getting. I didn't put an image, but another movie getting a sequel that we're not sure we want is the Transformers, the Beast Wars.
It's basically it's like the Rise of the Beast. I think is what the tagline
Rise
is.
of the Beast.
Never got into Beast Wars. As
Just
much
think.
as I love Transformers, I could not get into Beast Wars.
Beast Wars was
Why
honestly
couldn't we have
my
done the
favorite.
Dinobots, man?
Well, because they did do the Dinobots. I mean, to a certain degree.
Shittily.
What was that? Like the third one, the second one?
Yes.
We briefly got the Dinobots. But no, Beast Wars. So again, as a a man about to turn 37, Beast Wars was actually really more my wheelhouse than the original Transformers. I mean, I saw them and watched them, but like again, they were reruns. I was like 5 years old towards the end of their the height of that, and so yeah, Beast Wars really was what I woke up before school as a kid in like elementary school. So yeah, it was just it definitely hits. It checks the nostalgia boxes. I love the fact. It's funny. I had a conversation that's with one of my friends who runs the LCS here in town, and like he was just like, I was like, he had his opinions about it, about how these all have been bad. I was like, well, Bumblebee was starting to turn the corner, and the fact that they at least are trying to make the things look original source material accurate, I can get on board with. Like there seems to be an attempt there. They realized that those original films wasn't anything that anybody wanted. It was just shards of metal fighting other shards of metal. It's there's this scene in the trailer that's the finishing scene where Optimus says, "Well, let them come," and then it cuts to the in-game fight scene where it's the Decepticons rushing the Autobots, and everybody, you can identify characters solely by their their designs, and you're just like, okay, even if this movie sucks, I'm getting the two toys crashing into each other scene. It at least will check that box for me. I get to have my nostalgia moment. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, I watch all the Transformers. Again, they're kind of I know what I'm getting. Maybe this one will be a little better, maybe not. I'm not gonna trash it. Beast Wars, again, I've got I think 7 years on you, and it was past my prime on that. I think I watched it more when my kids were watching reruns, but we'll see. I just don't have any tie to those characters. I do think graphics, and the special effects just keep getting better, so it's easier for them to do. I'd like them to kind of stick to some kind of story that's semi-relevant to them, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Good God, my house is noisy today. Blue Beetle. This is still happening. I have no idea how or why.
I mean,
everything else got canceled.
Yeah, I think public outcry would have been like, I mean, it was pretty bad on the Batgirl film, but I think like you canceled the first Latino superhero from DC, and honestly, I think major motion picture wise, I think it's the first one period across the board. I think the public outcry and the backlash of 86 in a character like that movie when it was basically done would have been too great. And I think they were just like, it's done. It probably looks pretty decent. Let it ride. I heard like it just seemed like the Batgirl was just too bad to let be released. I think is honestly what it really boils down to. Well, and the rest of the shit wasn't done yet.
I mean, I guess this actor is somewhat hot with the Cobra Kai. I can't remember if it's a rumor or true that they had Sudeikis as Ted Cord. So I feel like they've got a slightly higher expectation. I don't know. This one also went
looked good.
Didn't it? This one was supposed to be HBO and they bumped it the other way?
I believe so, yes. Like,
so maybe this one just is looking to over exceed versus under. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like generally speaking, I think it looks really well. People responded well to the leaked photos of the costume in those like a couple of months back. I mean, they had people who were really, really, truly invested in the character from the sound of it. Like the guys who were writing and directing were really invested in bringing, Jaime Reyes to to screen. And so yeah, I mean, maybe it's just like whatever. Where there's an opportunity there to make some money. Let's let it ride. And
Well,
I mean, there's nothing
they
else.
must think there must be more upside than the write-off.
Well, shit, dude. There's nothing else. Like, what else is there film wise that they have planned for this coming year?
Yeah.
I mean, we got not Black Adam. We have the new Shazam movie. But that's not until later in the year. Didn't they push back?
Aquaman got pushed.
Yeah, Aquaman got pushed. Like, there's nothing really on the slate. So, I mean, Discovery paid a lot of money for Warner Brothers. And let's be real about it. They paid a lot of money for DC and the rest of that Warner Brothers shit. Like, that's how that really works out. They need to start recouping some of them damages. You can only write off so much on the taxes.
Well, I also, I could see Batgirl potentially ruin some stuff in there, trying to get more cohesive somewhere, whereas Blue Beetle is kind of if it goes wrong,
it's isolated.
We didn't lose anything. If it goes right, then maybe we've got a property we can use.
Well, I mean, to pivot off of that, I mean, basically, the official word that's come out is that James Gunn wants to unify all of the media. I don't think that includes comics, but I think as far as film and video games concerned and animation, he wants it to be basically he wants to use Star Wars as kind of like a model for how the games and the animation and the live action is telling one basically continuous continuity story across all of them. I mean, they may not necessarily be 100% connected, like what happens in these new Last Jedi games that are like about the other last Padawan still ties into the canon of the greater Star Wars universe. Andor ties in, Mandalorian ties in. I think that's what's been said is that James Gunn wants to completely wipe the slate clean, and have everything be unified and connected in some form or fashion.
I think that could be interesting. I might be sad because we lose some great animation, but they could also do it as Elseworlds and just call it a day.
Well, I mean, a lot of animation has gotten pretty bad now. Like the stuff that they've dropped in the last year has not been great. I mean, the last 2 years honestly ain't been great. Like it is like I think
you're right. The heyday was you're right. Judas Contract felt like the last real win.
Yes, like a lot of that stuff from that continuity was great. Like that DC stuff that was like Judas Contract, the Justice League versus the Teen Titans, Bad Blood, like all of those ones were like really great, and they were all connected to a greater universe. The Super Sons one, Ninja Batman, the Killing Joke movie, like everything they've dropped over the last
the Shang
2 years has not been
Kung
great
Fu Batman.
Yeah, like all that stuff has not been great at all. So
yeah, you're right.
I'm kind of okay with them starting over again.
You're right. I think we may have gotten what we were going to get out of most of it. So that's true. I could probably live with a rebranding. I guess if DC is going to stay dark, the animation stays a little dark anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Mr. Gunn, he tweeted this, which is interesting. Kingdom Come, probably one of the top 5 DC stories of all time. Maybe.
Oh boy.
I mean, I've heard 2 opinions about this image. I've heard this is actually like him being like, I plan to do this, and him just being like, for the sake of something being on social media, we're at the table making plans. So you could take it. If people respond, if people responded the way they did respond to this, and maybe it goes, maybe we do a Kingdom Come and see what happens. Yeah.
But it feels like that would have to be the last hurrah of making shit not matter,
Well, so one of the things that came up in one of the and shout out to the folks over at Absolute Marvel and DC, but they threw this out there as James Gunn could make this movie and legitimately have the end of this, if this is how he plans to wipe the slate clean, is Superman Prime shattering basically shattering existence, and we get our new post Prime events in a new form of a new universe.
So what does this look like, Chris? What does this look like? A mix of Crisis on Infinite Earths and a mix of Kingdom Come?
Well, no, I'm saying so you just straight do Kingdom Come, and then the finale of the event is basically, Superman or Superboy Prime, depending on how you want to look at it, shattering continuity, and then it's basically the reset.
Yeah.
So you just like have him completely, as just another part of the multiverse, being like, I don't like this so much, or you guys have pissed me off, or whatever type of catalyst you want to use for him. You could even, in theory, like mess with like people who have the ability to jump through the multiverse, having them think that they were saving him or pulling him out of his imprisonment or whatever it may be, and realizing, oh shit, he's evil, he's bad, and we just goofed. But yeah, you could make this movie, have that type of post-credit scene, and have it shatter the universe, and basically, you wake up and it's the new DC universe.
I think DC's still going to struggle. I mean, I love James Gunn. I think he's fantastic, but I think they're still going to struggle because they got pieces of the old universe they do like, it do work. And I think they hate the idea of getting rid of it. They've got The Rock floating around, whether it worked or not. You've got a big name star who's been touting he's making movies for a while. You've got, people love Harley. They love the Suicide Squad second movie, the Peacekeeper. That stuff has been hits. And the idea of just scraping it all feels real hard to do. They have never presented a unified image, and the idea of them doing it is it's just hard because they'll make these standalone pieces that are good, but they can't tie shit together.
I mean, but it's not the first time that we've seen people acquire things and say, no, even though there were winning pieces there, I'm not going to continue that. I mean, it does happen. I mean, usually by the time things get acquired, they've been, basically worn wet and, or worn rough and hung up wet type of situation, like with X-Men and things like that. But you could have always just been like, all right, we'll just pretend like that shitty X-Men stuff didn't happen and continue on with McAvoy and Fassbender and, revamp that universe or that world. But no, I mean, there's got to be a willingness to say, yeah, it worked, but we're going to let it go and we're going to start anew. I mean, again, Marvel hasn't shown us that yet, because at this point now, Sony and Marvel both have gone back to the pre-MCU well in the form of Spider-Man movies and X-Men movies. But I mean, maybe somebody's got the balls to do it, and maybe it's James Gunn. So,
God, I tell you what, I haven't seen this level of internet trolling since Donny Cates. And now it's on a Hollywood level. So kudos for all the making the spec go crazy.
I mean, he's got people talking again. He's got people like, you can actually potentially sell a DC book. And let's be real about it. Like, I mean, we were talking about this like a month ago. Like, that was a hard fought battle for about the last year to move. Like, you had the deep discount, and motherfuckers still would walk past like a DC key and be like,
yeah,
I don't know, 50% of market value. That still feels like a gamble. So
I think at this point we all gotta be thinking, DC versus Marvel, they're so cheap, they gotta go up. But we've been thinking that for a decade, and it just doesn't work for us.
Yeah, true story.
All right. We did mention Spider-Verse appears to have their trailer dropping on the 13th. So next Tuesday?
Yep, next Tuesday.
So
there ain't nothing going on Tuesday, is there?
No, we tried to figure out, is it like the Little Caesars Detroit Pizza Bowl or something? I don't know what they're dropping it Tuesday for. So,
okay.
I mean,
I got nothing.
Let's see. What's happening in sports December 13th? I think there might be a bowl game starting at that point, maybe.
I just can't imagine it being something they're going to drop the trailer at.
I mean, at this point, it's like they got to start doing something. Like we've had the one trailer that came out before its initial release date, and we haven't had shit like that. That date has passed. So the movie was supposed to come out back in October. They pushed it back to June now, and there's been nothing else about this since then. So they got to start seeding some stuff, especially since like they couldn't back up the train on the toy and the merchandise production. So we've all seen, you can go out there and easily find like, the new Miles costume in the movie. You can find what the Spot looks like. You can see what Spider-Man 2099 looks like. Spider-Punk, like all that shit's out there now. So they kind of got to do something to keep us interested in, like, wanting to see this movie. Oh, somebody said FIFA. I was like, oh yeah, I forget. The rest of the world cares about that. I was like, the Americans are out of
Well,
it.
is that the FIFA final? What? I didn't think about it. Could be close to that, huh? I don't have the schedule in my head, but okay, could be. All right,
It's a
market
semifinals
report.
match, so yeah.
Maybe. It's so hard to watch the damn thing. You got to watch it on like FS1 and things. But I guess maybe when we get to those big ones, maybe it'll be on a real channel. This one's more just interesting. And I will apologize. I didn't have a ton of time to do the price research on the market report. I kind of sucked. I was doing images because of our CEO being out for the night. So a lot of it's just things I found interesting. This is more of a book than a comic book. It's not what I would call the comic book. I assume they mean more the first printing of comics. But what I thought was interesting was a Schultz autograph. So I don't think those are super easy to find. So it feels a little cheap for me, but I guess I don't know the authentication of that because it's more of a book and all that crap, but probably worth the $200 gamble for somebody that is a big Peanuts fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tons of Eminem freaking talk and Spider-Man. This book's still moving real well. I know we had a sale like 2 weeks ago, but I cannot remember what it was. I think it was a Raw, though, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was, and it was.
Oh my gosh, that's a 9.4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean,
it's not 9698, man. That's $1,000 9.4. So yeah, no messing around here. Yeah, you're like 9.4. We don't talk about those.
I know, right?
Doc Joe just tuned out. I can see it. The number dropped. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm a rookie. I didn't even keep the price. Forget it. Star Wars still holding near the 5K number. I mean, this one's been strong between 4,500 and 5, back and forth. Just kind of was interesting. There's another one here in that 5K range that is not holding up quite as well. Star Wars fans seem to be holding. Not a ton of excitement on the Thor and Warlock news. I mean, this book at one point, an 8.0 was going to get you 2K or more. So still a real, I mean, argue all you want on this one. This character's a pain in the ass with 3 or 4 quote first appearances. To me, just for the looks and the toughness of this black cover, this is, in my mind, if you're going for a high grade, this is the one to get in a high grade because it's going to be a bitch and probably be rarer than most of the others. But again, didn't seem to move the needle very much.
Yeah, definitely not.
This one,
so that means let go of the book at the casting announcement.
Dude, I don't know anymore.
I mean, people did. That's the thing. Like, most of the copies sold at around, the casting announcement. Like when that leaked and people started moving books, definitely, and that coincided also with us still being in 2021 good money for book scenario. I think it's just multiple factors have come to play where this just isn't.
Well, I mean, so 2022 versus 2020 or 2021. This book has also been spec heavy since phase 1. I mean, everybody's like, is he going to show up in any of the Infinity Sagas? So, I mean,
Back in 2012, it was like, oh, it's only a matter of time.
I mean, I flipped copies back in the early teens, I feel like. So I lost patience. I had an 8.5 or something. I never got above that, but I had a stack of these damn things. I have none now just because I got tired of holding them.
Yeah, I got 8 boxes in a box over here somewhere.
Yeah. This one just, I don't know. We got the other one just to show too. An 8.0 of the this one is not even $400.
Yeah, clearly the Thor book is the one to have if you're going to have one of these.
Yeah, I mean, 8.0 Silver Age is nothing to joke at, and this is not an impressive price.
Not at all.
So, This is another first appearance. Rogue. I was surprised this is still $1,000 book. I do think it hit closer to 1,500 at one point, but more that might have been the frenzy of everything else.
I think the X-Men, like of all the things that still may hold some value, I think the X-Men is just one of those things that, though it has slipped, it's just there's too many characters, like there's too many opportunities to do it the right way. And also it's the mystery of what it could be, of like what characters could be part of the lineup. Like it's the reason why, like I always make the analogy, it's the reason why unopened boxes of cards sell more than than the individual like high dollar card that could be potentially in there, is because it's the mystery. It's like, oh well, it could be. I mean, it could be fucking Schrodinger's cat. Like, who knows what's inside this thing at this point? And because of the fact that we just still haven't gotten an official announcement yet past like they're coming. I mean, I've got a box sitting beside me that has basically, most of the X-Men keys from like issue 100 to like 225 or 250 sitting in a box graded, just waiting because, one of those characters will be used in the coming, movies to come for the X-Men. So yeah, I think that's why these are still moving.
And I think this is more, it's dropped because of everything else dropped, not because of excitement of the character drop. Whereas, Warlock is just kind of like, yeah, we might be done with him already.
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't help that like he's attached to a franchise that has been made very clear that we may not get more of them, or it's going to be a while before we get more of them. Whereas, like, again, X-Men's tabula rasa is a blank slate. Like, and you could easily crank out, 5 different X-Men properties over the next 10 years between special presentation, movies, and, animated tie-ins.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Warlock kind of floating around like Vision for a while, just kind of popping up here and there.
Yeah.
Let's see. This was an interesting one. I don't see this book very often. First, Ace the Bat Hound. Super Pets is hit streaming. Kind of a fun watch. Nothing special, but somebody paid $381 for a water damaged low grade copy. I mean, I could see the waves. Yeah, I could press, but man, I would be real concerned about mold, mildew, and everything else going on this one. And I rarely see it. And then all of a sudden, the same day, I saw 2.
Damn.
I mean, I'm not a Golden Age guy, but like, I mean, it seems like Golden Age people don't really care. Like these things are so hard to find that like Golden Age people are just like, whatever, I got one. Like,
yeah, it is. I mean, sometimes Batman, it's called a key. It's kind of like that secondary key for Batman or tertiary, but Golden Age appearances are tough. I honestly probably would have taken the 4 over the water damaged one, but the water damaged one did look nice. If you press that, it's got great colors. I don't know what's going on the inside, but it would look nice in Mylar or a slab if you put a little press on it. So
that's a fun book to chase. I'd never see this book in person at a show or anything like that.
Never.
That's a fun book to look at.
And sometimes that's what the Golden Age people want, is just something to chase. They got a list of 20 books that I'm gonna look for them because I go to a show and I've already got all the modern shit I want, or I've got all the easy stuff. I gotta have a reason to keep going to the show.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's where you're at.
Yep.
Another Golden Age one for us today. Crime Patrol 15, fair condition, missing centerfold, still 1,500.
That's very okay. So first appearance of the Crypt Keeper. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. But this book has just continued to climb. I remember some, I don't know, a couple of years ago, even maybe 3-4, you could have got somewhere in the low mid grade for this price. This is an incomplete missing centerfold. So these Golden Age horror books have not skyrocketed, but they keep edging up because that fan base is not. It doesn't seem to be shrinking, and I think there's just a youth movement on these books. Youth meaning like 30-year-old youth. You know, it's not just the 60-year-olds still caring about these books.
You mean the shaky old guy at the convention with the piece of paper, and you know, checking off what he has and what he doesn't have.
Yeah, there's still a stream of interest going down to younger people. So I think it's a healthy market. I don't see it like going bonkers, but I think it's going to continue to just do what it does.
Very impressive.
And stand steady is my thought on this damn thing. Recent steady.
I was gonna say because that is a monster dip from
a year ago. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely sold a 6.0 for like 2.5 for 2,700. Like right after.
Yeah, I guess I mean it's not climbing with Quantum Mania coming.
No, it's not. I mean, a couple copies have moved. The higher grade copies are moving a little bit, but yeah, everybody's kind of in wait and see mode when it comes to everything that's happening with Marvel right now.
Well, I told you guys, I texted, I was watching that stupid Netflix Western with him and Idris Elba, and I was like, he's just got charisma. You watch him, he's like just. The actor is great, so I think if he hits on the character and the character isn't just screwed up, it could be interesting. It could be something that they keep using because he does a hell of a job, you know.
I mean, again, the rumor is that Rama Tut, like the Brahma Tut betrayal, will show up in Loki season 2. So, like, I think they know they got something special with him, and he definitely is. I always used to make the joke, you know, is that, you know, in Black Hollywood, it's gotten better now, but like it really was like Highlander, there can only be one. And he seems to definitely be the dude right now. Like he is that guy that is getting the push and actually knows what to do with it. Because like every so often we see in Hollywood, like the machine gets behind somebody and they try to give an actor the push, and most people aren't built for it. Like a couple years ago, homeboy who was in John Carter from Mars was getting that look. Jai Courtney got that look for a while there, where they were trying to make them into the It dudes and how. Even what's his face, the Penguin, Colin Farrell. Farrell was like the one I can remember the most being like got the big push, was in everything, but just couldn't get out of his own way. And I think that Jonathan Majors definitely is getting that push, and also has the acting chops and the drive and the motivation to back it up. So, I mean, they very easily are going to have another Oscar award-winning actor playing in Marvel films very, very soon, I think. I mean, that movie he just did, Devotion, looks like it's definitely Oscar bait. It's a solid film. So, yeah, I think they know what they got on their hands, and they are definitely trying to, like, make sure that they are putting that character in everything they possibly can until, you know, the very end. So
well, he's also a perfect villain because they can beat him every fucking movie and have that Marvel ending, and he can come back.
I mean, and you know, you could do the whole, you know, pro wrestling thing with it and have him turn, you know, face, because of the fact that technically Immortus is kind of, you know, attempting to be a good guy version of Kang. Like he's like, oh, I realized that my Kang personas and my Conqueror personas are evil, so let me try and, you know, do something to make the world a better place, but still kind of screwing it up because I'm trying to do it by force. I mean, they can definitely flip this character 6 or 7 different ways before it's all said and done.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled 2 years ago, and the more I kind of get in, I'm like, all right, I see it. It just took a while. I think we were all kind of bit by Thanos, and they really didn't know what they were doing with him until it was too late. This character, I'm hoping they've got their head wrapped around a little better. So we'll see. Here's one that's near and dear to my heart. New England Comics Newsletter number 14, first true appearance of the Tick. the copy is listed as very good to find. I don't even know how to grade this damn thing. They said there's some yellowing and all that stuff, but overall the presentation looks nice. I have no idea what CGC would give it. But it got 1,300. There are only 14 graded copies of this item. 14. It's insane to me. There's only 3 sales on GPA. I know there have been more sold because my copy, I have a 4.5 I bought on Comic Link, Comic Connect somewhere at one point that doesn't show up. But there was a 9.4 that sold for not much more than this 2 or 3 years ago.
So is this strictly a regional thing?
This was at New England Comics, which is a shop in I don't know, somewhere in that Boston area. It's not Boston, but New England.
Yeah,
I think it may be Rhode Island even. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Where he worked, and he just was, this is like a flyer for the comic shop of just, hey, what's coming out? This was their own thing, and he drew a character and became the Tick. So I mean, I have no idea how many copies truly ever existed. It is
or survived.
Correct. It's one of those real true obscurities. I didn't know how rare it was when I bought mine a couple years ago. I just saw when I bought it,
Yeah, they're in Massachusetts, so they're like Cambridge, Quincy, Brockton. So,
I mean, they pop up once in a while because somebody finds them that I didn't know this was something valuable. I'm sure you find more out there than anywhere, but again, only 30 some graded or 50. Let's say 14 graded, 13, something ridiculous.
So basically, the further west you go, the tougher it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was actually going to make that point. Like, this is something that I used to love, like stumbling across when I was back out in, the Portland area, is because a lot of like that California, West Coast indie stuff, like it was all over the place in certain like shops up there shops that have been around since the 1970s or so. You would go in and find a lot of like really cool indie stuff because of the fact that it was published like right down the road. I mean, having like Dark Horse, like being able to throw a rock and hit Dark Horse, being able to head down into California and find like the California creators and stuff, like their little independent zines and stuff they were putting out. It would end up in the magazine box of like some of the shops in those areas. So yeah, like it's definitely like really cool to be able to find places and stumble into shops. Chicago has definitely some stuff like that too, at some of their older shops as well. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are in those type of major cities, definitely stop into those places, look through their magazine boxes, look through the old indie stuff, because you'll find some gems in there of stuff like this just kind of sitting in a box somewhere.
Three Rivers Comics mentioned the Tick Special Edition as the more familiar first print white background. A couple things. One, I have it because I didn't know about it existing before. There's I call it a promo copy with a gold cover that supposedly has 50 or 100 copies of the Tick Special Edition. It's like literally photocopied with a heavy paper cover. I've only seen a couple. One's on the census, mine's not. But this thing I think is unique because like a lot of people will buy like Spawn, first advertisement for Spawn and whatever the comic shop news is. I've got a Crow first advertisement in one of these kind of booklets for Caliber. But this is actually there's like a comic strip, so it's truly like not an ad for the book. It's the first character story, sort of. You know what I mean? So it is a unique kind of item, and who the hell is going to find these? Because you can't put this in a bag and board very easy.
So you said it's a comic strip, so like a little 4-panel story featuring the Tick. Wow. Yes. Okay.
So
all right,
it's a weird little oddity that it's not an advertisement, but it's in something that would be an advertisement for the shop, kind of showing what's coming out and things going on, and they let some of the local artists draw some shit for it. So it's an odd piece of history. Apparently it's rarer than I thought. I just assumed there was a couple hundred. Apparently I'm wrong. Maybe people just don't know they can grade it either. So I don't know.
How big is it?
It fits in a magazine slab, barely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy to see stuff like this getting this, day in the sun, because one of the things that's kind of in this kind of vein of being like super low print run, but nobody seems to give a shit. From Hell, like I always find like those like kitchen sink, one of 5,000 copies of From Hell, and they never sell for anything, and nobody seems to give a shit. Like, so yeah, I'm glad to see like something like this where it's like, oh, it's rare, and they're the fans of it do care and want to get their hands on it. So
yeah, I was watching this thinking, it might be a little nicer than my copy. I might throw 500 at it. I think I got my copy for just under 4. I'm like, I might throw 5 or 6 at it. And a couple hours before it went, it hit this 1,300 number. I'm like, nah, I'll stick with that. I'm cool. Because again, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I have no idea if it's going to grade nicer or not nicer, So, yeah. Honestly, the Three Rivers again on this 9.8 was going for 1,700. I think it went higher a while back, so I think it's a little down. But yeah, this is I don't know. I just truly didn't know where it was going to grade, and I have no confidence in myself saying it's a 6, an 8, or a 4. It's one of those things. Who knows? I don't know why they even grade it. Like, they don't grade previews, do they?
I'm pretty sure they grade anything, right?
I don't know.
If it don't fit inside of a slab, they'll grade it.
I've never seen a Spawn previews graded though. I don't know. Maybe anybody out there in the chat or watching this later, hit us up if you've seen that, because I don't know. I truly don't. Maybe it doesn't fit. Maybe it's a little bigger than that. Couple more. This one, 4,100 for a 9.8. That's the lowest I've seen.
Yeah, definitely.
You had a low one a few months back. What was that? 44, 45? Or am I making that up?
No, I think it was something in that range, because I sold one for 5 at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
So that's when they were still like worth something. Okay, this is still worth something, but
yeah.
Pales in comparison to what you were able to get out of one of these, like 9
But
months.
there was a time in 2020 we thought it was going to hit 10K.
Yes, this is true.
It was going. I paid. I think I paid 4,500 cash to get one when they were selling for 5, and I don't know what happened. I got sidetracked and wanted to sell, and I sold out at like 6 or something, somewhere near 6, and they still climbed to maybe 7, and then it turned. But there was a minute where I was like, shit, this is going to be a 10K book. So, I don't know. One more. Miss Marvel, just under $1,000. Anybody remember what the high was before it all went to shit? 2-ish?
Here, give me a second. I'll get the GPA and I'll tell you.
Yeah, sorry, I run too many things today.
No, you're good. Let's see. It's Marvel.
It never hit crazy prices.
But it was always like more than respectable.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 1, 9.8. Dude, that's low for the last 90 days. That's been as high in the last 90 days on average as almost a $1,300 book.
Really?
Yeah. The highest high was back in 2018. So I guess that was going into the film where, you'd be hard pressed to get one of these for less than $3,000.
Damn. Could you imagine if that movie hit around 2020? What it would have hit? 5? If it really hit into the frenzy?
Yeah, because like nobody cared. Like some of its lowest value was during 2020 when nobody cared.
No.
Like it got as low as $685.
So I think what we're learning is never do an auction in early December when everybody's buying for Christmas. Because these feel like a lot of kind of low lows.
Well, it's all over the place. Like having this Hulk 181 9.0 that I got back, and I was just like, oh, I want to get it gone because I have enough of these. And I even thought about maybe just throwing it up for auction on eBay and just seeing what happens. And I watched one finish at 8,200, and I was like, respectable. And then watched another one the very next week finished at 7,350, and I was just like, okay, what did this person do wrong?
I think at this point you wait to January.
Yeah. Well, also I'm waiting to January because I honestly don't want to add any more money to that 1099. I was like, I'm good. The Feds are going to crush me this year, so I'm like, nah, I'm good.
I got killed last year. I sold so much last year. This year I'm feeling a little better. So
yeah.
All right. Either of you gentlemen got any pickups?
None on this end.
No.
I got one I promised a few weeks back, and then I missed the mailman missed me, and then I missed a week. So I picked up a really sweet book. Sorry, I don't have Mylar yet. ASM 1 Mexican edition.
Very nice.
I got real lucky on eBay. Everybody was watching the seller, and this guy popped up, and I should have hit buy it now, and I actually I made an offer on him, and he took it quickly. And everybody's like, shit, I was watching that seller, and it jumped back. So, yeah, Josh got himself a Journey into Mystery 83 of the run, and somebody else got another nice one. So, very happy to snag one. Beautiful cover. It's got a pretty wicked 2 to 3 inch spine split, but other than that, it's a nice condition. And again, these are not common. And again, ASM 1, even they recognize it in that culture, and they're not common. So I do look forward to seeing what happens in the next 10 years, how many of these pop in or out of the woodwork. So,
what year is that?
It's within, I think, a year of the original, maybe less. I mean, most of these were running real tight.
Wow.
So the Mexicans are the closest to anything other than the Pence, of course. Brazil usually was a little further behind. I did get one other item. I mean, really just got it and haven't taken it off the slab. I got another page of Prime from Ultraverse. I really grabbed it. Grabbed it because it has this nice full body image. This is Al Rio from the Marvel run of Prime. I generally try and buy the true Ultraverse ones, but this one hit my fancy, and for a little over $100, I'm like, I'll take it. So,
heck yeah.
We all have dirty little passions. That's mine. So, anything else you gentlemen want to talk about?
None on my side.
All right. Well then, thank you all for joining us for 250. Maybe we'll have ourselves a celebration next week when everybody's back. And thanks all for watching. We'll see you later.